another edition of Five Strands with Art Del Cueto. And as always, do me a favor, hit that subscribe button and also share. Look, I like to get the points across. I like to get people to know what's going on, but I do not want to just stay within that, echo chamber. And the only way we're able to move the needle is if we are able to share the episode and tell people, hey, this is what's really going on. And that's what it comes down to. People, they need to know the reality of what's happening, especially in our nation's borders. And as I've always said, it's not about race. I always talk about that. Illegal's not a race. But again, we need to share this episode. We need to subscribe. So do me that favor and do that right now. And right away, we're jumping into some of the issues that have been happening that you don't hear about them outside of Arizona. Sometimes you don't hear enough about them outside of Tucson. Now, you may hear some chatter about it, but it's not enough. And it blows my mind, the issues that happen, and you just don't hear, the national news focus on it as much as they should. I understand the World Cup was going on, yada, yada, yada. But look, that's for the ESPN networks to take care of, I think. But when it comes to some of the issues that are happening, I think some of the things don't get as reported as much as they should, especially when it comes to Arizona. And for instance, there was a shooting. Nobody was hurt, thankfully, but there was a shooting up in Phoenix at one of the ICE facilities. Somebody drove by, fired some shots at the building. I believe, there were some windows that were broken. And as of right now, I heard that they still have not caught any suspect involved in the situation. I mean, to me, that's big news. Why does that happen, though? I'll say it again, and I've been saying it for quite some time. It is because we have some leadership out there, not just politicians, but people in leadership positions, actors, musicians, whatever you may call them, that have been, spewing that venom against law enforcement, specifically against Border Patrol, specifically against ICE. And this is a direct, result of that type of narrative. And I think all those individuals should be held responsible moving forward. Thankfully, no one was hurt. In another incident where the agent was also okay and also did not get reported as much as it should, was down in Yuma. There was an agent attempting to make an arrest, and the individual he was trying to arrest tried to stab him. He had a knife. At some point, the agent had to pull out his gun, and he shot the suspect. As of this taping again, we're hearing that the suspect was killed. The agent is okay. But again, a lot of these issues that I continue to see, and we had attacks on agents before, so I'm not going to try to say, pin this entirely and solely on the rhetoric and the narrative of a lot of these radicals, but certainly it has not helped. But again, it's something else that you did not hear about it as much as you should, because someone's going to say, oh, well, this news network did talk about it. Not as much as it should have been talked about, but thankfully the agent is okay in that situation as well. And then now we had another situation down in Tucson over the weekend, a horrific situation where there was a gunman downtown after, one of the bars had closed, and he did shoot 9 people. Police officers were nearby. And if you understand Tucson, downtown area, every time on the weekend, there's a higher presence of law enforcement, particularly the Tucson Police Department in the area. They heard the gunshots. They ran towards the gunshots, and they were able to find the individual that was shooting these people. From what I'm hearing is various individuals got shot with, in the leg, arms. Somebody got shot in the ankle. They're all going to survive. So that's huge. Now, the suspect was shot by Tucson Police Department. He is in critical condition. We do not know the status as of me recording this, so we're going to have to wait and see. But again, this is another effort by TPD showing themselves in law enforcement that they heard gunshots and they ran towards the gunshots. People are trained to run away from them, but again, law enforcement, it is what it is, and they did the right thing. They went towards them. They probably prevented even more not casualty, but more injuries, more people getting shot by being able to respond immediately. So hats off to TPD for doing a fantastic job of doing that. And as soon as that came out, there was some talk about it within the news in Tucson. And the mayor of Tucson wasted no time. Instead of, going right away and saying, hey, look, this is what's happening in our city, hats off to the police department, whatever. She took this as an opportunity to go against the Second Amendment, which is just of no surprise. Again, that's what she chose to do, is go after the Second Amendment. We've seen a lot of issues in the city of Tucson with the crime going up, with the homelessness, just so much back and forth. And instead of taking care of that and addressing those issues, the mayor decides to go after guns and the Second Amendment and find them as something to blame. So more irresponsibility by the local leadership. But again, those are three stories that you do not and have not heard enough about on the national spectrum. And it's crazy because, as I've said before, there's issues also on the Tohono O'odham Nation, which is a Native American reservation here in Arizona. Half of it's in Arizona, the other half is in the Mexican side, in Mexico. And there's issues that constantly happen there. Groups coming through, they're still utilizing that. I've been talking to some agents, and they've said that they're seeing, some, teenagers and whatnot drive down in those areas of the border lately and try to pick up load vehicles. So load vehicles, again, is, they're loading the illegal aliens that are coming into the country. And they just released numbers on for June. So there was some numbers that were released. You can find them on my Instagram page, where there was 13 bodies that were found in the desert in the month of June in that specific area of the Tohono O'odham Nation, which just goes to show you that there are still groups crossing through there. And I did have the privilege, honor to speak to the Cochise County Sheriffs, and they're in charge of a SABRE program, which has cameras throughout the entire state. And they as well said that we're doing so much better under Trump, under the Trump administration, than we did under Biden, but there's still a lot of work to be done. They said that they're seeing and apprehending more or less 60% of what's coming across. That's a huge jump from only the 30% or under that was under the Biden administration. But that just goes to show that there's still some work to be done. So, let's not get our foot off the throttle. Let's realize that we still got to move forward. We can't just, be complacent. That is a big deal. Elections, I'm recording this on Monday. Elections are tomorrow. At least the primary elections are tomorrow. I think we should be good as far as the governor on the Republican side being Andy Biggs. But I cannot stress enough, we have enough individuals that are registered to make a difference. We need to be able to have our voices be heard come November. We need to change these things that continue to occur in Arizona. We need to have more of a law enforcement side. And look, I'll say it as I always have. It's not about, whether you like the president, you don't like the president. It comes down to the rule of law. If you come to this country, especially if you come to this country as an immigrant, obviously, and you want to be here, it's because obviously something wasn't going on correctly in your own country. So now you're here, and I think a big step in that is that we respect the laws of this country. That's why we're here. So, we got to get very vocal, very busy, and make sure that we, go into action come November to make sure that this state, is on the right path once again. So until next time, stay safe and God bless.